Hey guys, welcome to my end of 2021/2022 cube collection video. Let's get into it. Starting off, we have my 2x2s. 2x2, which I have no clue what it is, has the strangest color scheme on it. The pieces look like this. If you know what it is, please comment down below, because I am curious. The Chi-Chi-Di, the Meilong 2x2. Rubik's 2x2, which is tiny and is an absolute piece of garbage. Two 2x2s I'm currently using, the Volk 2M, and the YJ MGC Elite. Moving on to 3x3s, fair warning, there are a lot. My first ever cube, which is a dollar store cube with Space Invaders on some of the sides. My second ever cube, which is an old Rubik's brand, and I moved it and it doesn't turn that bad. My first ever speed cube that I bought was the Yushin Little Magic, and I did resticker because all the stickers fell off. Two Cheese LWs, I put this one in a jar. The Shangshao Legend 3x3, the Meilong, the YJ Guanlong, a calendar cube, which I also don't know what cube it is. Looks like that on the inside. You know what it is, please tell me in the comments below. The YJ Yulong V2M was the first cube that I ever got that had magnets in it, and I used it so much that it's kind of terrible now. The YJ MGC Elite 3x3, which I used so much the logo wore right off. And it was the first cube that I got that had adjustable elasticity and magnets. This dollar store cube, which barely turns. This dollar store cube that exploded. The Chi 3cm cube. The Volk 3M. This dollar store Rubik's cube, which has various roller coasters on it. This dollar store cube, which is also an ornament. This new Rubik's brand, which is absolutely terrible, and it got sand in it, and I really don't care because it's a piece of garbage. The Chi Pillowed Keychain 3x3. One Yushin Treasure Box cube, which is broken. One Yushin Treasure Box cube that actually works. Chi 9cm cube. Rubik's World's Smallest Cube. The Maru Nano Cube. CubeLab 1cm cube. The Mofang Jiaoshi RS3M 2020. The Mofang Jiaoshi RS3M 2021. And the three cubes that I'm currently using, the X-Man Tornado V2, the Dian Tanyan V2, and the GAN 11M Pro. Moving on to 4x4s. My first 4x4, the Meilong 4x4, the YJ Guansu, the YJ MGC 4x4, my current main, the Moyu Aosu WRM. Moving on to 5x5s. My first 5x5, the Meilong 5x5, and my current main 5x5, the YJ MGC. Moving on to 6x6s. My first 6x6, the Meilong. It is a piece of garbage, do not buy it. And two MGC 6x6s, this one is my main, and this one is missing several pieces. On to 7x7s. First 7x7, the Meilong. Just like the 6x6, it is garbage, do not buy it. And my main, the YJ MGC 7x7. Moving on to the other WCA events, starting with Megaminx. Starting with my first Megaminx, the Chi Hang. It's okay. My first Speed Megaminx, the YJ MGC, it's good, it's just probably not worth the price. And my main, the Dian Megaminx V2. On to Pyraminx. First Pyraminx, I don't know what it is, it feels like an old Moyu. It has ball bearings, and a Moyu. That's the core, that's the piece design. If you know what it is, please tell me in the comments below. This Pyraminx, which is really bad, the tips just, the Chimang Pyraminx, I think. My first Speed Pyraminx, the YJ Yulong V2. It's pretty good. My main, the X-Man Bell V2. Next up, we have Skube. My first Skube, the Chi Chang Skube. My current main, the Moyu Aoyan Skube. It's amazing. Next up, we have Square One. First up, we have my first Square One, the Chi Chifa. The turning's okay, but when you go fast on it, yeah. The original Square One from the 1990s. It doesn't turn well at all, but it's a cool thing to have. The X-Man Volt V2, and my current main, the YJ MGC. The turning is just amazing on this, and the corner cutting is pretty crazy. Moving on to everyone's favorite event, clock. My first clock was the Shangshao clock, and it's nice that the pins are automatically magnetic, but it's pretty trash otherwise. The turning is just super stiff. And there's my main clock, the Chi magnetic clock, and this thing is just amazing. Like, the pins are effortless, the turning's effortless as well. It's just pretty crazy. Next up, we have some non-WCA big cubes. The Mofang Jiaoshi 8x8, the Meilong 9x9, and the absolute beast of a puzzle, the Moyu 15x15. This is just crazy. It takes forever to solve, and it's just amazing. Next up, we have some shape mods. First up, we have the Yushin Penguin 2x2. Just a really cute cube, and it turns pretty good. Next up, we have the YJ Ball Cube, which is just a normal 3x3, but instead of cubes, they're spheres, so it's a pretty interesting puzzle. This may just look like a normal Rubik's 3x3, but it's actually the Rubik's Impossible, and that means that the sides change from solved to scrambled in the same position, and it's like it's insanely hard to solve, so I'm pretty happy that I was able to solve it. The Meilong Puppet Cubes A and B, these are basically just 3x3s, but inside a 2x2, so when you turn them, they just shapeshift like crazy. And this one's basically the same thing, except it has fewer pieces. So the Chi Pyromorphix, it may look like a Pyraminx, but is actually a 2x2. Right there, that's the face, those are the 4 corners. That's the center. So it turns like that and shapeshifts like crazy. Next up, we have the Chi Mastermorphix. It's kind of like the 2x2 in the sense that this is actually not a Pyraminx, it's actually a 3x3. That's the center, these are the edges, and these are the corners. So this is a face right here. And when you scramble it up, it's pretty crazy. The Chi Fisher Cube, if you don't know what a Fisher Cube is, it's basically a 3x3, but turned 45 degrees on its own axis. So that's the center, these are edges, and these are corners. And it turns like that. Created by Tony Fisher, it was one of, if not the first 3x3 modifications. The Chi Windmill Cube, kind of like the Fisher Cube, but not a perfect 45 degrees, so turns in a similar way. The Chi Axis Cube, believe it or not, this is a 3x3. This is a layer, this is a face right here. That's the center, these are edges, and these are corners. So when you scramble it up, it's just a mess. It gets crazy. The Fengshin Banana, it is a 2x2x3 shape mod, and so it turns like that. The Fengshin Lemon, it is a 3x3 modification, and turns like this. These aren't that hard to solve because there's no PLL, because all the pieces are the same all around. Similarly to the lemon, there's the Fengshin Apple, which is also a 3x3. Turns like that. The Chi Mirror Cube, it's a 3x3, but instead of solving it by color, you solve it by shape. So when you scramble it, the shapes change, and each side has a different depth. The YJ Mirror 2x2 is pretty similar. It's a 2x2 that you solve by the shape instead of the color. The Fengshin Ghost Cube is similar to the Mirror Cube in the sense that it's solved by shape instead of color, but this is a 3x3 and it's offset, so you can't turn this way until you line up these pieces, and then you can turn this way. And if you can see, that's a center, these are edges, and these are corners. So it's pretty crazy to solve. The Shengshao Crazy 3x3 is a 3x3, but it has these cuts in the sides that don't turn with the face. So when you turn it, the sides, the pieces in the middle stay where they are. So when you scramble it, it gets pretty crazy. Okay. Probably my favorite shape mod is the Moyu Crazy Windmill Cube. It's kind of like a 3x3, except it just like shifted in itself. So you can clearly see the 3x3 cuts on all the sides, but it's pretty fun to solve. There's center orientation, but that's just about it. Moving on to cuboids, the Chi 3x3x2, which is a pretty interesting puzzle to solve, and it can do the special shape-shifting move. The Chi 2x2x3, which surprisingly solves similarly to a square one. The Chi 3x3x1, or floppy cube, which turns like this, and you can also turn it like that to make it shapeshift. The Chi 1x2x3. The Z Christmas Tree 1x2x3, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's 1x2x3 in the shape of a Christmas tree, and it's also a Christmas tree ornament. The Z 2x2x1, which is a crazy simple puzzle. It only has 6 positions, and this is a fun cube to give to like really little kids, and when they solve it, they go crazy. And the hardest puzzle of them all, the 1x1. Moving on to some skew shape mods and other corner turning puzzles. The Moyu Ready Cube, which was created by Oscar Van Deventer, and turns on its corners like that, and it's a pretty fun puzzle to solve. The Chi Dano Cube, which is essentially a Ready Cube without its corners, and interestingly enough, you can solve into different color schemes like this. You have white, blue, orange. Now it's white, orange, blue. Next up, we have the Chi Ivy Cube, which is basically just a cube, but missing half its corners. If you look hard enough, you can still see that they're actually there. The Maylong Polaris Cube, which turns on its corners like this, but when you turn them all halfway through, it turns through the middle, like that. And it's actually pretty easy to solve despite what it looks. Maylong Maple Leaf's Cube, which turns like a normal cube, but when you turn it halfway through a turn, these edges can swap. The Maylong Double Skew, which turns like a skew but on one axis. The colors change on the inside. And perhaps the puzzle with the best name ever, the YJ Yeet Ball, which is just a spherical version of the Ivy Cube. Moving on to the gear puzzles. The Chi Gear Cube is just a classic gear cube, and when you turn it, it turns like that. Even though it looks really complicated, it's actually easier to solve than a normal 3x3. The Z Gear Shift just looks like a 2x2 gear cube, and it turns like that. But when you pull apart the corners like this, you can turn it individually and pop it back on, and then keep doing that. It does it on all axes. Chi Gear Pyraminx, you turn a corner like that, and then the edges just go crazy. It's just, I don't even know how to solve it. Moving on to some non-WCA Megaminx type puzzles. The Chi Killaminx or Kibiminx is the 2x2 version of a Megaminx, and it's not that hard to solve. The Mofang Jiaoshi Readyminx is basically a Ready-Q version of a Megaminx, and it's a pretty interesting solve. It takes a long time, but it's not hard. The Shengxiao Gigaminx is the 5x5 version of a Megaminx, and it is really heavy and a beast of a puzzle. Moving on to some puzzles that I couldn't find a group for. The Lan Face-Turning Octahedron is an 8-sided puzzle, the only 8-sided puzzle that I have, that turns like that. And it's a pretty interesting puzzle. It's in some competitions as an unofficial event. The Z Helicopter Cube, which I very much doubt is made by Z, I'm fairly certain it's a Lan. And it turns on the edge, it's the original edge turning puzzle. And there's a thing called jumbling that you can do where you turn it like partially, and then you can still turn the sides like that. It's pretty crazy. The Lan Curvicopter is very much similar to the Helicopter Cube. It turns on its edges, but this time it has these edges in between the pieces. And just like the Helicopter Cube, can also jumble. This one I also bought from Z, and they said it was a Z Cube, but it still has the Lan logo on it. The Chi Master Pyraminx is, if a Pyraminx is a 3x3, this is a 4x4. Turns like that on all sides like that, and it's a pretty fun solve. The Rubik's Perplexus 2x2 is like a Perplexus puzzle, in the sense where you have to get a marble through the maze. And it's like a Rubik's Cube because it turns like that. It also turns very badly, which is not good for the marble. As you can see, you line up the sides, try to get the marble all the way through to number 100. Moving on to some puzzles that are not considered twisty puzzles. I have one Rubik's Magic. It's a Lingao. And the way Rubik's Magic works is that you have these 3 rings, and then you do a certain pattern that connect the 3 rings together. 2 Klotsky puzzles, one that has numbers and one that has a picture of a cartoon lion on. Some other interesting Rubik's themed stuff include these Rubik's Cube headphones that my brother got me, and this little ceramic whale that I use to hold my lubes and screwdrivers. Speaking of lubes, these are the ones I have. And for timers, I just use the StackMat G4 and mat. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed that video. If you do, please leave a like, and please consider subscribing. Thank you, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.